A multiple identity of mysterious origins that first surfaced in Italy in the mid-90s, Luther Blissett has maintained a viral presence ever since. Multiple names are connected to radical theories of play, writer Stewart Home observed in the Festival of Plagiarism back in 1988. The idea is to create an open situation for which no one in particular is responsible. Some proponents of the concept also claim that it is a way to practically examine and break down Western philosophic notions of identity, individuality, value and truth.
Luther Blissett? Well...
Yeah, which Luther Blissett are we talking about?
Luther Blissett.
Who is Luther Blissett?
Who is Luther Blissett?
That's a very complex question. They initially took the name from a black British footballer called Luther Blissett, who had a disastrous season at Milan and became a hero or a symbol of heroic failure in Italy.
My word is dangerous. My word is dangerous.
The people who started the project were a group who were connected to left communist ideas and activism, but who also wanted to work in a cultural context. And they were very aware of previous attempts to create multiple name projects, and one of the problems that had dogged the projects is that the people who'd launched a particular multiple identity became very much associated with that identity, so they very cleverly remained anonymous and remained in the background of their project, and they created a myth around Luther Blissett about how the name was created.
Who is Luther Blissett?
Well, I think one of the earliest ones is obviously Santa Claus, which is a very popular multiple identity in a lot of Western countries. But the Dardaists, the Berlin Dardaists, in the early part of the 20th century had a project where anyone could pay them 60 marks to become Jesus Christ, so they had all these different people who were Jesus Christ upon payment of a small fee. And if you go back to the 70s, there was an art project for a lot of people to use the name Klaus Oldenburg, and then following on from that in the late 70s, some people involved with the Neos movement decided that everyone should be this open pop star called Monty Cansin. So there were a lot of people who used the name Monty Cansin through the 80s, and partly in response to that I was one of the people involved in suggesting that perhaps we ought to have a female name for a multiple identity, because we found there were more men getting involved than women. So there was from 1985 there's a lot of people using the name Karen Elliott as a multiple identity. I think having an open name does question originality, and it opens up a whole lot of questions about identity, whether that's in the kind of art world where the name has been used, or in the music world, or whether that's in the world of political activism. It's asking people to concentrate on the effects of what they do, and is not at all interested in putting a kind of individual signature on specific actions or works. The Luther Blissett project will have an afterlife in whatever form occurs. I don't think it's something to particularly worry about. I think it's very positive that the core group of people who'd committed themselves to Luther Blissett as a project have decided to leave it alone and to let whatever happens to it happen to it. You know, it's a very fantastically inspiring example of a kind of cultural activism that a lot of people could look at, and who knows what someone might take from that and what they might make of that. You know, Luther Blissett will now become huge in Indonesia. To describe Luther Blissett as a collective phantom, and people are very much engaging with Luther Blissett as a collective project.
Anyone can be Luther Blissett simply by adopting the name. Have you thought of changing your name?